Hello and welcome to a cover story conversation. Today I have with me Dr. AMBRISH MITHAL. He is one of India's top endocrinologists. He is also the head of endocrinology and diabetes at Max Healthcare Delhi. But welcome to this conversation, Doctor. But the reason why we are talking today is to congratulate you on this book of yours, The Weight Loss Revolution, the weight loss drugs and how to use them. I cannot emphasize to my viewers how important and timely your book is, because you talk about these weight loss drugs like which people are unfortunately taking for lifestyle reasons, for health reasons. In fact, doctor, every time I go to a dinner, to a party, this is the conversation that is happening. So now your book is my favorite birthday gift to people because and the amount of people who are waiting for this interview, so I'm not going to waste time and welcome you to this conversation.
Thank you very much, Priya. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. But I'm going to begin with asking, you write in the book, there are basically, we've seen a whole range of weight loss drugs that have entered the market also, from Ozempic to Ribelsis to Wegovy, Mounjaro, Zepbound. But what are the differences? A, how do they work? And each one works in a different way. How do they target? Can you simplify what is GLP-1, what is GIP for my viewers?
Sure. So, firstly, there are only two molecules available worldwide at the moment, and lots more in the offing, but two molecules. Now, Ribelsis equals Ozempic equals Wegovy.
They're the same.
The difference in this, all three contains semaglutide. And the difference is only in the dosing. But the intrinsic principle, the molecule is exactly the same, made by the same company.
Okay.
Similarly, Mounjaro and Zepbound are also the same. Now, these name differences are sometimes because of regulatory reasons. You get one approved for diabetes, one for obesity, all those kind of things. But as doctors, it doesn't really matter to us. Both are really important drugs, and they have changed the way we look at diabetes and obesity and so many chronic disorders. Now, what is the story? What are these drugs? Why is it so big?
Yeah.
So GLP-1 is the central molecule in this. Now, GLP-1 is made in the gut. When we eat something, there is GLP-1 released from the gut. It goes to the pancreas, stimulates insulin, suppresses glucagon. Keeping it very simple. It also has an action on gut motility. So stomach motility goes down. It slows down stomach emptying, which has implications. We can talk about that later. But what is most intriguing is that they also go to the brain. And in the brain, they tell us when to stop eating. Okay. And also control our appetite. Now, this effect has been exploited by drug developers. So what has happened is that they have made molecules that will not get broken down quickly like the native GLP-1 does. So they stay in the blood for a longer time. And over the last 20 years, we've been using these drugs for 20 years. The last 20 years, they managed to modify molecules using molecular tools to an extent that the weight loss effect has become very powerful. So for diabetes, they were in use for 20 years. Some degree of weight loss. So it was good 3-4 kg weight loss type, But with semaglutide and now tirzepatide, they have cracked the code of greater than 15% and 20% weight loss. So one more line between semaglutide and tirzepatide. So tirzepatide is a little different because tirzepatide is a dual action. A single hormone that acts through GLP-1, which is a central molecule, but also through GIP. GIP is also a gut hormone. So that produces slightly different effects. So it's fascinating the way this is going.
Which is very interesting because, as you said, they've been in the market for long. So how, did they develop into weight loss drugs? Because, the buzz really now is that everybody wants to lose weight. Yes, it is good for diabetes, but it is being used as weight loss. And what I like in the book is that you actually give case studies, which we will go into later, symptoms, side effects.
Those are real people.
They are real people who are, and you don't hide, you've written the pros, cons, everything, which is, it's a very objective picture, I must say. But let's first begin with, what do these drugs do? For a lot of people in your case studies have said that Ozempic hasn't worked, but Mounjaro has worked better. Why is that?
So most of the people in India were using
Hmm.
oral Ozempic or Rybelsus. Now,
Okay.
it is not approved for weight reduction. The weight reduction is like the earlier GLP-1 drugs. It's only
Hmm.
enhanced the dose delivery by the injectable version, which has only come into India like 2 weeks ago. Only then has the scene changed. So it's unfair to compare Rybelsus with either injectable Ozempic or Mounjaro. So yes, but it is
Okay.
true that some patients lose weight on oral Ozempic also, oral Rybelsus also, but definitely those who did not, we moved them to Mounjaro, and some of them lost very significant weight on that.
So now let's talk about the dosage and how the do's and don'ts of, you want to do first Ozempic, then Mounjaro, or however you want to explain it to us.
So in India, Ozempic has been launched as Wegovy. So for
Wegovy.
ease of listeners and viewers, we'll call it Wegovy or semaglutide, and Mounjaro or tirzepatide. So
ठीक है.
semaglutide or Wegovy, it's you start with 0.25 milligram once a week, subcutaneous
Hmm.
self-inject, and every 4 weeks you increase the dose.
ठीक
Right.
है.
The key mantra is to start low and go slow.
You say
Whereas
that in capitals in your book.
because people are in a rush. They bug my brains all the time about why can't I lose weight within 1 month? It doesn't happen. You'll fall sick. So
Hmm.
so you have to go slow and start low and go slow. With Ozempic, you go from 0.25 Wegovy, and you can go up to 2.4 milligrams once a week. Gradually up titrate. Now that up titration is where medical skills are required. When should it be increased? Should we continue on the same dose? Should we de-escalate a little bit? Based on two things: based on
Hmm.
the response the person is getting, and based on the side effects person is feeling. So these two factors will decide. With Mounjaro, it is somewhat similar, except that the dose schedules are 2.5, 5, 7.5, and goes up to 15. So
Right.
2.5 to 15 is the Mounjaro band, 0.25 to 2.4 is the Wegovy band.
Do you start with, for instance, you say, I think for Ribelsis, that you take the first 3 weeks, just take the dose, a very minimal dose, so your body gets used to it. Is that
Yes, so
how
same
do you?
thing here. The escalation is typically every month. So after 4 shots have gone in, each shot lasts 1 month in our 1 week in our blood. So 4 weeks, body gets used to it, then escalate the medication. That works best.
And the difference between injection versus pills is, I think, with when you take a pill, you also write that one should not have any water, any dilution for 45 minutes.
The
So
pills,
it
yeah.
works.
Yeah, the pills,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Pills, empty stomach and nothing with half a glass of water, nothing 45 minutes. But remember, the pills are not really weight loss agents. The pills are, anti-diabetics with some weight loss property.
Okay. Now, the question of side effects, that's something that is worrying. Or should one worry, should not worry, and you know.
So, see, in side effects, there are two kinds of side effects with every drug.
Hmm.
One is the overt discomfort and side effects, which may seem terrible, but which will stop when you stop the drug. They're not going to harm your body. They're not doing anything sinister inside. And the second is the hidden ones, that you find out, a year, 2 years down the line that there were some reports of X, Y, Z. Those are the more sort of, one has to be more careful about those. Because in the overt side effects, either it'll suit you or it won't suit you. You just chuck it if it doesn't suit you.
Right.
So the most common, almost universal side effect of these drugs is a bit of nausea,
Hmm.
reflux. Some people even get vomiting, occasional vomiting, constipation. It's amazing how some people get very stressed about constipation, diarrhea, occasional diarrhea. So both can. So it plays with the gut. You see, the gut is it's a gut
Got it.
hormone.
Huh.
So
Correct.
that's why. So those effects are usually transient. And if the patient is handheld during this period and guided properly, then most people can get over them. And over a few weeks, they gradually subside and then person is comfortable. Now, every time you increase the dose, there may be a slight resurgence of side effects. So, that has to be managed. You have to. So, these are not dangerous side effects. They are irritating, and in some people, they are bad enough for them not to take the medicine. They just won't take it because their quality of life goes down because they keep feeling sick.
Yeah.
For most people, they feel much better, but for a small fraction of people, this also happens. So I think, and they're treated normally, like an antiemetic for nausea and something for diarrhea, something, isabgol for constipation, those kind of things. That is what one does. So nothing magical in that. It's the long-term side effects that we are concerned about. But to be very honest, we've been using this class of drugs for 20 years, and nothing this has emerged. So we are looking at it as as a health, as a drug. So we have a feel. It's not that it's totally new. We have a feel for the group of molecules from the same stable, from same lineage. They are coming. So what are the long-term concerns? One is they should not be given to people who have any history, family history of thyroid cancer. A particular kind of very rare thyroid cancer, medullary thyroid cancer, has been shown to increase in rats. So there's been no significant human sort of correlation as yet, but then, that's there. So if you have a family history of thyroid cancer, best to avoid. Second is pancreatitis,
Yeah,
and
that is.
keep appearing and reappearing. So those who have history of pancreatitis should not use it. But how much is the actual risk of pancreatitis is very, very low and debated. Again, we've been using these drugs for so many years, and the odd case, someone once in a year, something, we are never sure whether it's because of the drug or whether it happened because people who have diabetes or are obese, in any case, have a greater risk for pancreatitis. So,
Right.
so, so I think that, in fact, there is one study, one American study, which says long term, because you treat obesity and diabetes better, risk of pancreatitis goes down. So,
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
having said that, if someone is on these drugs and is getting acute pain, abdomen is uncomfortable, the pain is more than just a bloating or gastritis kind of pain, then you should go to the hospital. I have not had any patient who had pancreatitis, but it is possible that the odd case may appear. This should not be a reason for you not to take the drug, because if at all it's there, it's exceedingly rare. So that is a. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other, what people talk about is the loss of muscle. I mean, you do write that when anybody loses weight rapidly, muscle does get targeted from. But how do we prevent that?
So I think that's the single most common thing that we are trying to develop strategies to prevent or surmount. And I think when we lose weight with this speed and in these amounts, some muscle is bound to go. So let's say
Right.
if you lose 10 kg or 12 kg, 2, 3 kilograms, the muscle will go.
Mm.
Now, therefore, but there are numerous studies now coming from different parts of the world which have shown people who ensure adequate protein intakes, people who ensure regular strength training, their muscle loss is much less. So otherwise, muscle loss. So muscle loss is not an effect of the drug. That's very important. All the studies have shown that, in fact, there may be less muscle loss when you use these drugs than by other means of weight loss, let's say bariatric surgery. But still, it remains very important for me, for my older patients. Others, it's an important question, and we keep drilling that point again and again. That ensure another important point here is when you talk of protein intake. Said, okay, you're eating like 2,000 calories a day. Let's say you start Wegovy or Mounjaro, your intake becomes 1,000 calories. So your
Right.
protein intake will also become half.
That's.
Already on a lower protein diet and it becomes lower. Indians don't have very high protein. So I think those things are important, having enough protein, enough fiber, hydration, and of course, exercise. So that it should be part of a program. Do not use these drugs as a standalone for your weight management or diabetes management. It should be part of a program. So that is the other thing. One last long-term effect, which appears in media from time to time, which is why I'll address it, is some rare eye side effects. Now, the eye
Yes,
side effects are very questionable. Uh,
Hmm.
so, it's not proven yet. If at all they are there, they are exceedingly rare. But as a precaution for my patients who I put on these drugs, I always get a comprehensive eye examination done beforehand, just to be sure that if they have an underlying eye condition which mimics this, I wouldn't start the drug. So other common side effects of weight loss are gallstone formation and all. Not nothing new or nothing big. Yeah.
So you made some very important points. One, you nailed the thing that these, everybody says there's no long-term study to see the long-term impact. But as you say, these drugs have been around for at least from
20 years we've
2005.
been using them. Yes.
So 20 years. So there has been some study. So you have some basis for saying that, don't worry. Second, of course, is that muscle mass happens with anything that you do and if you lose weight fast, then muscle mass is something that will happen. And there are ways to, try and secure yourself for that. The other thing I read from your patients' case studies is very interesting. A lot of people say that वो चाहत चले जाती है to eat food. It's not the amount, but even the parathas and people say I don't eat all that. Is that because they are feeling good about losing weight, or is it some receptor in the brain?
No, that's the
Quantities
one of the
decrease, but even the
one of the
bad food
most
decreases.
interesting, one of the most interesting phenomena noticed with these drugs. It doesn't happen in everybody, but in a majority, they develop aversion to unhealthy food. So that is something remarkable being studied. It's a brain effect, 100%. But it's being studied. And, people certainly say that they can't have the food that they love, the jalebis, and as you were saying, kachoris, etc. They suddenly have an aversion. So, which is actually very good. But in some people, that takes a form that patients don't like. So what happens is that there are some of my patients who complain that the joy of living has gone out. I'm losing weight, but if I can't enjoy the things that I used to enjoy, what's the point? So it's a human difference, but vast majority love it because they can control their cravings, they can
They're
eat
looking good.
stuff, and they're losing weight and controlling diabetes better.
So then what do we do with what is commonly now known as the Ozempic face and the Ozempic butt? So now people are looking haggard. That is
Hands,
the fear
hands
also.
also, the big hands. So,
Hands we have. So,
I think that's just if you lose weight too fast and you're not regulating your dose, not eating properly, you see what happens sometimes. I see that people fix a target like in kilograms. I want to achieve 65 kg. Now, if you're 90 kg and your goal becomes 65, please talk to your doctor. Is that a correct goal for me? Should I go slow over 3 years, over 2 years, over 1 year? How should I do it? But people want it like this. Now, if you're looking
yes.
only at the weighing scale and not at health overall, then if you lose weight, suddenly you'll get that haggard look. That peculiar haggard look. It'll go away after
Yeah.
some. But at that point, it'll happen, whether it's face, whether it's butt, whether it's even hands, because if all the tissue from the hands just melts away, even hands look old and very sort of
Wrinkly.
bony and this thing. So I think those can easily be managed by proper guidance and titration.
And you also mentioned, for instance, like you spoke also about bariatric surgery versus this, and you said right in your book also, if this had been invented or prevalent earlier, you would not recommend. But now people who've had bariatric surgery want to go in for these drugs. Would you recommend that?
I think that'll be one important area of use for these drugs. Because what happens even after bariatric surgery, 15 years later, many patients are coming back with major weight gains. And earlier there was no option other than go for a repeat surgery, which no one wants to. It's very complicated. So these drugs will work in two situations in concert with bariatric surgery. Number one, in those who have undergone successful bariatric but are now regaining, they can be used. Number two, as my bariatric surgeon friends tell me, that some patients are so overweight that it's difficult to operate. It's like physically very difficult to operate. So if you use them for 6 months or so, bring the weight down to more manageable level, help them lose 10, 15 kilograms, then the surgeon's job becomes easier. So both ways they're very important.
And what is the impact? Actually, I'm going to take a break and let's now talk about the positive impact also, because in your book, you also talk about how it could help as an anti-aging drug and also, it's also not just bad, there are also side effects that are beneficial. So after a quick break, stay with us. I know I'm not going to lose my audience, so I don't have to say that, but still, quick break. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation. I have with me Dr. AMBRISH MITHAL. He is a top endocrinologist, someone who knows no introduction. But today we're talking to him about his latest book, The Weight Loss Revolution. He's talking about the weight loss drugs, and I think this is fast becoming a bestseller, at least among everybody I know. So, Dr. MITHAL, much needed book. But now let's talk about the positives of, we talked about the side effects. There are some positive side effects. But before I go in for that, I have a question from a friend who's asked me to ask you this, who's had bariatric surgery, but she has only one kidney. She gave one, donated one to her dad. Would she be a good candidate, or does this have a bad, side effect on the kidneys?
No, these drugs are actually being used in people with diabetes for renal protection. So they are very
Oh,
safe for patients, even with one kidney should not be a problem.
I'm sending her to you. She's coming to you. So, but so you were saying that it's where else would this help?
So we were talking of happy side effects.
Yeah.
Moving from drugs for diabetes, then to drugs for obesity, we discovered many things. Scientists worldwide who were working on this discovered many other benefits. Some of them were just via the glucose control. Some of them were largely because of fat reduction, not just overt fat reduction, but visceral fat reduction, etc. So, what are those effects? So, the first thing is in people with diabetes and now without diabetes, also, there is data to convincingly show they reduce the risk of heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
They reduce the risk of progression of kidney disease, as we were talking about your friend. They treat fatty liver. They are useful for sleep apnea, approved for sleep apnea actually in the US.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's a whole plethora of things that happens, which is really important in this case. Then the other thing is that, I mean, these are obvious things and a lot of data, a lot of studies ongoing also with both the molecules. Uh, a 20% reduction with semaglutide of major adverse cardiovascular events is a big deal. So,
Forgive
so
me.
those are important effects, the primary effects that, as we say. But there are others that are even more interesting. There may be some reduction in some types of cancer. Time will tell us. There may also, very interestingly, be an improvement or protection against Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, as we know, is the bane of an aging society, and
Yes.
we're fast entering that domain. So, if anything can reduce Alzheimer's risk or help treat his, nothing could be better. So, even Parkinson's, you know. So there are a huge number of areas where this drug has been found to work because we are realizing the role that little amounts of visceral fat were playing in all these things. And moment that is reduced, you get these benefits. So the major issue, the major research point is,
Mm.
how is this happening? Is it just all fat? Or are
Mm.
these drugs, you know, providing some
Yes.
anti-inflammatory effect, which is also reducing all these conditions? So I think that is absolutely amazing. And of course, mood changes, generally positive. A lot of studies on that. Alcoholism. So they're being tried to reduce alcoholism, and there is some success that you develop aversion to sweets or fried stuff, you may also develop an aversion to alcohol.
There is
So
a case study. I remember reading that point in one of your case studies. Yes.
lots of good things. So we have to look at these drugs, I think,
Mm.
as a landmark, truly a watershed moment in our health journey, in our medical journey. Now, God forbid, if there are unknown side effects, that's a different story. I don't think that will happen. Unlikely, but one never knows. If that
Mm.
doesn't, the benefits of these drugs far outweigh any risks at the moment, at least.
Now, I want to come to the fact of, what are these a lifetime? Because, if the minute you stop or you decrease the dose, people gain weight. So this is something now I will be committed. It's like statins. In fact, you give the example of statins, how, bad press got gave statins a bad name while it's a much needed drug.
So, in terms of importance, also I use this phrase. This is a statin moment. One of
Okay,
my
the statin moment.
in history, because this is as important as discovery of statins, if you ask me. Now, so what happens here is that, like every drug, they only work till you take them. So that's a challenge. Now, what do you do? I mean, okay, if you are a 50-year-old, 55-year-old diabetic with multiple drugs and you're trying to control your sugar and your weight with these drugs, of course they will continue. I don't think they're going to go away. You have to go on monitoring, changing your lifestyle, whatever, but they will stay like your anti-diabetes drugs, right?
Hmm.
Now, what the strategy that we follow is that we first aggressively help patients to lose weight within the limits of their tolerance, right?
Hmm.
And then, like in every weight loss program, there is a weight loss phase and a weight maintenance phase.
Correct.
Gradually de-escalate. So let's say you've reached 15 milligram Monjaro, you bring it to 12.5 for a month and see patient is okay, tolerating well, no problem, no weight gain, 10 milligram for a month. And then you bring them to the lowest possible dose. Now, with that effort, at least in the couple of years experience that we have, we've been able to bring down many of our patients to a maintenance dose of 2.5 or 5. Okay, so that's one good thing. So you're reducing the drug
Hmm.
load. This is easier with those who follow lifestyle measures, much harder with those who do nothing. That's a challenge then. Now, the issue is about younger people. And I always raise this point because we are using it for girls in
Rest
their
of your life.
20s and 30s, but they want to plan a pregnancy, they're too overweight, weight loss is a treatment for PCOS, you know. So, okay, so you do that, you help them lose weight, and then you stop the drug because drug cannot be given during pregnancy and has to be stopped 2 to 3 months before pregnancy, planning pregnancy. So, but they may not conceive for 6 months. They may not
Hmm.
conceive for a year. It's not that you stop the drug and the PCOS patients can't plan a conception like that. You don't know when it's going to happen. So now when they conceive, by that time they may have put on weight again. Then during pregnancy, they'll put on weight, obviously. Then after delivery, when do you restart? So these are the unanswered questions. We'll have to learn on the job. We'll have to learn
For
on the job.
this.
For younger patients who are in the 20s and 30s and using it primarily just for weight, how will we manage long term? Just remains a question, and I have no hesitation in saying that. We learn about it as we go along. At the moment, I'm trying to
Hmm.
get them to the lowest possible dose and keep them there.
But it's a very important point that we made earlier, which we must repeat, is that you have to carry on the exercise and the weight maintain. It's not just take the drug and kahani khatam. Otherwise,
So we are trying to tie up with certain app-based programs. You have these online programs. Some of them are
hmm,
good. So what we do is say you start this, but you do what is called a companion program or something like that. Which will also look at your daily.
monitor.
You don't have the bandwidth to look after your daily diet. We are doctors and nutritionists in
Correct.
the hospital. You do a little bit advise, give them access, but it can't be. But uh, some of these apps, if they do it scientifically, can actually monitor you day to day. They'll sort of they'll chase you,
Hmm.
so that kind of thing. So I think that
Much needed. Yeah.
I think we have to
Just
have
look.
a comprehensive program.
True, yeah, because as you know, otherwise it can have other complications also.
Absolutely.
The last two questions I have for you. One, of course, is the cost. Because I mean, I do assume once is more freely available, the cost will come down. But currently, is the cost very exorbitant? And secondly, is the question which I should have asked you first. Obesity is a medical condition, not just a lifestyle condition. So that's something we need to address.
Absolutely. So the cost is always an issue, Priya, with all the new drugs that are launched. They are patented. Innovation happens outside India, in Europe or the US generally, and then these drugs are launched. So there is a challenge with the pricing, no question about it. At the moment, they're only for a thin section of the society. But even that in
Hmm.
India is big numbers. Huh? In terms of absolute numbers, it's always big. But
So
in
how
order
many people, how many patients do you have, and have they increased over the years? Since
Well, it's only with the newer the experience is only a couple of years, but of course we have lots of patients, several hundred.
It's already gone to several hundred. Okay.
Easily, yeah. Several. We are collecting all the data. So I think the access to the common Indian, which is what we would like all our patients to be able to access it, that will happen only as the prices come down. Now, I have no reliable information in this, but some sources have told me that we expect a sharp price decline next year. So if it comes as early as that, at least it will go down one level. So it will not be for the top layer, but the average middle class person will be able to afford it. And then, of course, we'll see how it goes down further. But I think it's important. There is an upside and a downside to that. Quickly, the upside is that, of course, we want access for our patient. Anything good for our patients is good for us. The problem is that the misuse will also increase. I suspect that they become very readily and cheaply available. People will use all kinds of stuff, and in remote areas, any doctor can prescribe, anyone can take. I hope that doesn't happen, but that is a fear. Okay. The second thing was, go ahead.
No, and also the fear of the Me Too. In India, there's always the jugaad. Somebody will.
Absolutely. So patients driving their own treatment. I mean, that's becoming more and more common. But with these drugs, it's peaking actually. Patients really want to drive their own treatment. So the other question you asked me was obesity. So doctors really look at obesity as a disease because it is a condition where there is excess adipose tissue in the body. It's actually called ABCD now, adiposity-based chronic disease. So WHO 1997 said it's a disease. So I'm a little wary. In medical meetings, it's all right. But to tell my patient that everyone with a BMI of 25 or above is diseased is also a problem. It's not, I don't want people to feel stigmatized and worse. क्या तो बीमारी हो गई, disease हो गई, अब क्या करें? But at the same time, in the medical circles, the understanding that it is a disease that requires treatment and may require drug treatment. See, unless you call it a disease, unless you understand it as a disease, you will be reluctant to prescribe drugs. So, for the right people, where obesity is a challenge, definitely drugs should be used for the right people, of course, under supervision. And that happens only when you start treating obesity not as a cosmetic problem alone, but as a disease or a condition.
Which is why I guess it's important to go to a doctor and be under medical supervision because you also do a whole lot of tests before you prescribe these drugs, as you have mentioned. So it is, but thank you for this conversation. I'm sure there are a whole lot more questions I'll be asked to ask you. So I may do a follow-up with you. But for now, I mean, I must say this is a book that I've really, enjoyed reading. But it's very simple. It's colloquial. It's like we've had this conversation is exactly how the book is written. And a quick question for your fellow author. He's written that Shivam Vage is someone who's been trying to lose weight. So is he on any of these and has he lost weight?
That you'll have to ask him. I can't divulge that. But yes, he and I have been in this together. So that he's been quite remarkable in terms of the reading that he did. And at some point, I'm sure you knew more than many doctors because he was really up to date with the literature.
But on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Mithal. It's really good to talk to you on this. So thank you and all the best.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.